seem insurmountable, when the giants seem unbeatable, when the mountains seem unmovable, when defeat seems absolutely inescapable, and retreat seems like your only logical option. I want you to remember, it is always too soon to quit. Say that with me. It is always too soon to quit.
Mine. Get situated here and get my glasses. How's everybody doing this morning? Good? They had a good crowd out there, didn't they? Good booths. All right. So I got two scriptures I'm going to read, but I just want to introduce myself before we get started here. I'm from Collinsville, Mississippi, not so far away. And from there, I was taught good work ethics and stuff, kind of like y'all. I know that I know a lot about Scott County because my wife is from Scott County, Jana Culpepper, Jana Mayat. she has really helped me through this time. So I have a fond place in my heart for Scott County. So I'm glad to be here. It's an honor for me to be here today to speak with y'all. I have written a couple of motivational books. This is not a selling tactic. I just wanted to show you. I wrote this book, and while I was going through brain surgery, so I said, man, that's a great thing, because if there's any errors in it, everybody will overlook it, you know. But I was blessed enough that it was pretty well written, even though I didn't have all my senses to me, but it was a good thing. In these books, they were written kind of in layman's term, and they were kind of humorous too, because I'm telling you, cancer, there's nothing funny about cancer. And if you've had any family involved in it, you know, you have options. You know, you have options to dwell with the negative or dwell with the positive. Well, I choose the positive because there's some good things in it too. For one thing, I'm here today, you know, because of it. I might not be here speaking today, and it's an honor, like I said, to be speaking here. Anything you do is worth praying about. I wanted to start it off like this because me and my daddy, when I was young, he was a Christian man, and he was really serious, and I was more on the humorous side. I went up to bat, and I said a prayer, and I accidentally knocked one out because that wasn't my regular thing. But anyway, I knocked one out, and Daddy said, what were you doing? I said, well, I was praying. He said, man, you don't need to pray about hitting a home run. He said, God's got too many things to worry about than you playing baseball. And I disagreed with him, man. I said, you know, if it's worth you doing, it's worth you praying about. And me and him, I picked at him for years about it and stuff, but I really do believe that. So the scriptures I'm going to read from, and both of these have guided me through this sickness and being able to deal with it and being here today to speak. Y'all see me go up the stairs. I got some cancer in my hip, and I hadn't got my leg strong enough. So like I said, that was kind of like Mount Everest. I had to sit down. I'm glad we played the video because I'd have been breathing so hard I couldn't even spoke. But anyway, the first verse is John 12:27. It says, now my soul's troubled. And what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. But for this cause came I unto this hour. So I'm here today because God had a plan for me to be here. The other verse is, and this is my go-to verse because I really had to work on this one all my life, not just when the cancer come on, but throughout my life. It says, it's Proverbs 3:5-6. And it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own understanding. Think about him in all your ways, and he will guide you on the right paths. That means all the world to me, because when I first got diagnosed, I had been in business. I'd been, you know, we kids played ball, so I knew a lot of people, and a lot of people were coming to me and they were saying, I can't believe you got cancer. Why not somebody else? Of course, I said, I can't believe I got cancer either. But after living it for just a few weeks and months, and I'm going to go in greater detail with it, I found out that this cancer was never about me. It never was. It was about everybody I come in contact with, even today. It's about me being here today. God had a plan for me. The cancer wasn't about me. It was about how I carried myself while I was dealing with it. And I'll deal with it the rest of my life because it's something that they can't cure. It's just something they can stop. God expects you to take the first steps when dealing with sickness and adversity in your life. How many times have you seen people in your life, your family, and they have something going on, but they just can't seem to make an effort to help themselves? You know, sometimes I wonder if God is that eager to help those people, you know. He expects you to make an effort, a genuine effort, and from there, God will come on in there and do miracles. And that's exactly what he did with us. So I'm gonna tell you, you know, doing these things, it takes a little effort, you know, and it's not easy. You know, it kind of reminds me of there was an elderly couple, and they were walking the park one day, and they had their little dog, and you know, everybody's proud of the little dog. Well, they met up with a younger guy. He came, and he had the same type dog they had, but his dog was so much prettier than their dog. His coat was just slick and pretty. And the elderly gentleman asked him, somebody said, what are you feeding that dog? He said, he has a beautiful coat. The young guy said, I feed him straight turnip greens. The old man said, my dog ain't going to eat turnip greens. He said, mine didn't either for the first 3 weeks. So it's a little pain. You know, you have to have, it takes effort. It takes effort to have change in your life. But I thought that was a funny story, but I think it relates to how all this works. I've learned through fighting cancer that I don't pray that God walks beside me. I pray that he walks ahead of me. I need him to be there to have the right doctors and the right drugs and the right things in the right place. So, and I know he has all the way through this. So on July the 23rd, 2020, I was diagnosed with esophageal cancer and was given an estimated 6 months to live. With that being said, I'm saying this so you'll know. I had no idea I had cancer. We played a wiffle ball game. Y'all know what that is with a plastic with the kids. Played 9 innings in 100-degree heat the day before. I felt good. And when I went in there, he said, this ain't good, Jack. He said, we got a problem. And 3 days later, he come to me. He said, "It's kind of worse than what I thought." He said, "You probably got 6 months to live." Of course, me being me, I was like, "Ain't no way I'm gonna die in 6 months, man. I didn't even know I was sick till you just told me a while ago." But I found out cancer has a way of chopping at you. You know, every day you wake up, it's coming, so you have to fight it like that. And when they put a timeline on your life, it kind of changes your way of thinking. You know, we kind of go through life, and I'm going to turn this to your grandkids and your kids and stuff before this is all over with, because I'm looking at the crowd, and y'all are a good-looking crowd. But I know that there's kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, and if you ever think you shouldn't say anything to them, I'm here to tell you today you should. Because they got enough friends in the world. They need parents and grandparents and great-grandparents to help guide them, because this world's getting a little worse every day. But it's also got a lot of great people in it. It still does, and I've learned this through this living where I've been. So they told me I had 6 months to live, so I had to make a choice that day. And me and Jana sat down, and there's some land come for sale. And, you know, that's a bad deal. When I always wanted this land, too, because it's attached to my place and our place. And it come for sale. Now, they didn't know I was sick. They didn't know anything about what was going on, but they had it for sale. And Janet came to me and said, "What are you going to do?" She said, "You always wanted that." I said, "Well, today I got to sit down and I got to make a choice. And the choice I got to make is I'm going to live like I'm dying, or I'm going to live like I'm living." And I said, if I'm going to live like I'm living, we're going to buy it. And so we bought it. And I had never looked back. So those are choices you have to make. And I'm telling you, making the choice is one thing. Walking the walk's another. With all of it hitting you, just start chipping away at you and stuff. But we got the property, and I have been living like I'm living. I'm here today. When she called me, Miss Lynn called me to speak. This was like 2 months ago or a month ago. And when you have so much going on like I have had going on, you know, to make a commitment, it's kind of scary. But I make them anyway. And I got several of them I got to speak at later on. But I make them because I know God's going before me. And you got to have that faith. And I encourage you to have that faith that God is going before you. And this is not about me. This is about God. I'm fixing to start throwing some stuff at you, and it's all about where God was there. God knew where we were going to be, and he was there before we ever got there. So I had to have a stent put in my esophagus to be able to eat. I was in the recovery room. Some people called on the phone. God was there. He called and said, Jack, said, I don't know why we're calling you, but you need to go to MD Anderson. You got to. You got to go. And I didn't know these people, and I was like, man, you know. And I knew all the doctors in Meridian were going to try to keep me there. And I told Jen, I said, this has got to be, this is God. He's here. So off to MD Anderson we went. When we got to MD Anderson, it was worse than what I thought. I had stage 4 cancer. It was in my lymph nodes, bones, esophagus, and some of it was in the muscles. I shouldn't have to read this, but I'm keeping on track here. Right before I walked into MD Anderson's, this guy that does this esophageal cancer, he was like the leading doctor in the U.S., the one I was going in there to see. So I was feeling confident that this guy was going to be my ticket. Well, my doctor at Meridian, I love him to death, he called me as I was walking into MD Anderson, and he said, Jack, he said, blah, 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 blah. He was throwing those medical terms at me, and I just ain't that sharp here. And he knew it, and he's like, hey, he said, stop. He said, stop for a second. He said, I need you to do this for me. I said, well, what do you want? He said, I need you to write this down. He said, I need you to write HERS2 +3 down. And he said, do not leave that hospital without telling that doctor this. I said, okay. I actually got Jana to write it down for me. And she wrote it down, and we got in there, and of course this well-renowned doctor come in, and he looked at me and said, well, his assistant first come in, and she was all negative, and he come in, he's like, it's pretty bad. He said, you know, I don't know what we can do and everything. And I sit there and thought, I said, I may have had to ask Jana for that note, you know, that the doctor gave me written. I said, well, hold on one second. I said, the doctor in Meridian called me right before I walked in. He told me to write this down, so I'm going to tell you. And anyway, he wrote it. I told him what it was, HERS2 +3, and I don't know if y'all ever seen the movie The Grinch, how his old smile was, but that doctor's smile was just like, well, he said, I might could help you then if that's what you got. So I said, yes, sir, that's what he said. So sure enough, they were going to put me on a trial. We ended up going to Nashville. After the first treatment of this trial drug, my cancer was reduced by 69%. The doctor, when I asked him, he come in and he was kind of fun to, you know, he's a funny guy. And he said, Mr. Jack, how you doing? I said, I don't know. You tell me. He said, I'm telling you. He said, this report here is almost miracle status. And I said, I'm doing really well then. But with all that being said, the question I have is, does why matter? Does why matter in your life? What do y'all think? Does it? Have y'all ever been on a project and you didn't know why you were doing it? Or at a job and they were making you do stuff and you didn't know why? You remember how you felt? So I have been part of a big manufacturing organization, and of course I got to travel all over and been in many seminars and different things like this. And one day we were in Pennsylvania and they had a seminar, and the seminar was Does Why Matter? Well, does why matter? And of course we went in and they set us at a table, you know, there was about 30 or 40 of us, and they set us at tables and paired us off in threes. And they had a bunch of little springs and washers and different things like that. And they told us, they said, we want y'all to join together and build something out of what we got on the table. Of course, we were laughing and cutting up, and we were trying, I thought we were making a tripod for our camera, but that wasn't what it was. But we were still laughing and cutting up. We wasn't serious a bit, you know. We were just having a good time. And finally, that guy walked up in the front of the room, and I mean, he got loud. He said, "Stop!" He said, "I don't want y'all touching another thing like you know you do your kids." And he scalded us pretty bad. And he said, I want y'all to watch this video. And after you watch this video, then I want you to start figuring out a way you can build something out of this, what's on your table. Well, we watched the video. The little things that we had on our table were actually prosthetic arms for the kids over in Iraq that had stepped on landmines and different things like that. So we had to build, I think, 10 of them. And I'm telling you, once we knew why, it changed our whole perception on what we were doing. We were rolling it, and we set up quality control to make sure everything was perfect. And I mean, we slowed down the process, and we did. We built all of them, took pictures of ourselves, and sent them to these kids, and they got these prosthetic arms. And I never will forget how I felt leaving out of there, because I never really thought about did why matter. So the people that worked for me after that, I made sure when we made changes and stuff, I'd sit down with them and explain it. But why does matter. So when you seek anything in your life or anything with your children, make sure you explain why, because they need to hear it. And it may hurt their feelings or whatever, but you go ahead and you make sure they understand why. We ended up getting kicked off the trial in Vanderbilt. And I'm telling you, if you don't know, if you've ever been through it, you know. If you hadn't, I hope you never know. But we got kicked off this trial, and this trial was keeping me alive. And I was thinking, golly bum, man, that's sorry, you know, to kick you off a trial. Now, Vanderbilt didn't do it. That's where we ended up having the treatment. They wasn't a part of it. It was a group out in California, and they were looking for good numbers so they could sell their drugs, you know. But the cancer got in my brain. And we ended up we got kicked off the trial in Vanderbilt, so there was no need to drive 5 hours to Vanderbilt. So we went to Meridian, and a little doctor there, and this is God now, he was there. He seen me, and he just so happened to live, his mother and them lived right down the road from us. And we used to ride to school together. So, and I didn't know, she was so mean, I wondered why I didn't kill her. But I told him when I seen him, I said, I've always wondered why I didn't kill her, because she drove me crazy. I said, but she had a son that's going to save my life. And sure enough, he did. We got in there, they did the scans, he seen the tumor, and he told me, he said, look, we can get about 80% of it. You know, that's the best we can do, Miss Jack. And I said, well, how about MD Anderson? He said, they can get 100%. And I said, well, I'm kind of a numbers guy. I'm going to have to go with 100% this time, you know. And he said, but you can go to UAB. And he graduated from UAB, and he was well respected. So he ended up calling UAB and lining everything up. And the number one this is God working, the number one neurosurgeon in Alabama did my surgery. And she did a great job, because when I got there, the quarter-sized tumor, when I said quarter-size, I was thinking thin, like a quarter. When we got there, it was as big as a hen's egg. And it had done got serious, and of course I had the best doctor to do it. We were waiting, and I had a later surgery that day, and this is God. The guy that had the surgery, brain surgery, might I add, before me, lived in Birmingham, and he wanted to spend the night at home. You know how it is, you get better rest at home. And then he was coming on to the hospital and having his surgery the next morning. Well, on the way to the hospital, he had a flat tire. Now, if you ever think you have a bad day, you're going to have brain surgery and you have a flat tire, that's a bad day. But the thing is, they were able to move me up, and once again, it saved my life, because the tumor was so big it was pushing my brain stem down, and once it goes so far, I think it cuts your air and everything off. So God was in it. He saved me, you know. So after having the brain surgery, I went to the NICU room. And anyway, to make a long story short, they had they had their assistant, the doctor that was assistant to the brain surgeon, come down and check on me. No, she come down and check on me. And she tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Mr. Madd." I said, "Hey." And she said, "Oh my goodness, you ain't supposed to talk." I said, "Well, now, if there's a script for this place down here, you need to let me have it so I know what it is." But soon after that, the other doctor come down, and he told me, he said, "She told me you're talking." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You think you can stand?" I said, "I think I can." He said, "Well, I'll help you." I said, "Okay, let's do it." So I stood up, and obviously nobody ever speaks in that in ICU, and nobody ever stands in it. So he told me, he said, "Look, tomorrow morning I'm going to get you up." And he said, "We're going to walk around the hall up there on the 5th floor. That's where you'll be moved. We'll move you into a room. And I'll get you up at 6 something, and we'll walk around the hall." I said, "Okay." So I walked, with your drip and pole, I was using it to walk around, and the nurse stopped me. She was a head nurse on that floor. And she said, "Mr. Jack?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "You're blessed." I said, "Yes, ma'am, I know." She said, "No, you don't." She said, "I want you to walk around this hall, and I want you to look in these rooms." And this is when COVID was, so nobody was up there with their family. And these people that had surgery the same day as I did and days before, they were laying there with their mouth open. They were still in like a coma state. And they have to leave the doors open, so the nurses make their rounds and they kind of look in on them, So I got to see them all as I walked around. And as I made it back to her, she asked me, she said, "Mr. Jack," she said, "what do you think?" She said, "How do you feel now?" I said, "I feel blessed. I'm very blessed." So don't ever take anything for granted. So I'm going to close because I know we want to eat and get all the prizes and stuff. And I got a little bit more that we could do, but I want to tell you a little story. And this is where it goes to your grandchildren, your children, your friends, your family, your church members, everything. Do you know every day you make a decision and it affects other people? Y'all, do you know that? Shake your head yes. I want to see that. There you go. All right. So in closing, there was this Indian chief, and he had a reservation, and he was rode from the NOAA weather station. And of course, he had lost the knack for reading the signs of the earth and different things like that. So winter was coming on, so he was going to cheat a little bit. So he called up there to the NOAA weather station. He asked them, he said, "Look," he said, "I'm so-and-so down here on the reservation. I'm the chief, and I'm just curious about what kind of winter we're going to have." And they said, "Well, we're going to have a pretty good winter, so that's what we're expecting." He said, "Well, okay." So he got his tribe together and got them all and told them, said, "Look, it's going to be a pretty tough winter, so we need to start chopping wood." So, man, they chopped wood, and they had it all stacked up there neat and stuff. And about 2 weeks passed by, and he started feeling a little guilty again, so he called up at NOAA weather station again, and he asked them, he said, "What kind of winter are you going to have?" And they said, "Well, it's going to be worse than what we thought. It's going to be a pretty tough winter." And so, anyway, he went back to his tribe and told them, said, "Look, it's going to be a worse winter than I originally thought. Let's cut wood." So, man, they started cutting wood, and they had wood just stacked everywhere. And about 2 weeks passed again. I'm telling you, they worked to cut all that wood. He called the NOAA weather station again, and he asked them, he said, "Look," he said, "I'm just checking on the winter." He said, "What kind of winter do you think we're going to have?" They said, "It's going to be a bad one." And he said, "What do you mean it's going to be a bad one?" He said, "It's going to be a bad one." So anyway, he asked the guy, he said, "Look, I done called up here several times, and it's just getting worse and worse." He said, "What are you basing your information on?" He said, "We're basing it off the amount of wood the Indians cutting on the reservation." So with that being said, we never know who we're influencing, and the decisions you make today, who they're affecting, whether it be your children, grandchildren. And so be very aware of what's going on around you. Make sure you make those good decisions that you don't have a negative impact on family and friends. So I thank you for allowing me to come and speak today. And I'm going to close us in prayer, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Miss Lynn. Dear Lord, just thank you so much for allowing me to come and speak, dear Lord. And dear Lord, I pray that something I said, dear Lord, will touch someone's heart and make a difference in someone's heart. Lord, I love you and I trust you, and just thank you for this group of people that took time today to come into this church, dear Lord. And I pray that you just bless them and their families, for we pray in thy name. Amen. Thank you. And Miss Lynn, I'll let you have it. We're going to come down and say evening now.
Okay. Thank you so much. I enjoyed that. I know it blessed me, and I know that it blessed a lot of people and it touched their hearts, and I appreciate you coming. Bobo, you and Brother Jerry want to stay in here. Brother Bobby, can you come down too? Do we have any other pastors? Any other ones here? Okay. All right. Well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do some door prizes and Cook Medical. I'm going to do yours last. Is that okay? Okay, all right. So if y'all will, I'm gonna call a name and y'all just pick up, and if y'all raise your hand, one of these gentlemen will bring it to you. All right. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. This one's gonna be for a killer. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna draw a number, and then what I do is I just find whose number that name coincides with it. All right. Here we go. Number 58, and that is going to be Butchie Barnes. Yay! Okay. Carolyn Wade. Y'all just, whichever, y'all just pick up a prize and take it to them. All right. I have an 86 in here. 71. Dorothy Simpson. Miss Dorothy Simpson? Is Miss Dorothy not here? Oh, okay. All right, 31. Travis Martin. Okay. Ann Hall. Okay. Butch Myatt. He's that way. Am I too close? Don't have a 75. Oh, Faye Myatt. Diane Ushery. Miss Billy Irby. Is it Bridget Hall? Who is it? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not good reading these names. 66. Jana Mayette. Jessica Anderson. Mr. Butch Gordon. And then those are bags from Community Bank right there. These are nice little bags from Community Bank. This next one, all right, is these glasses back on. Is it Jessica or Jenny? Bethlehem Woods? Is that right? Okay. Larry Sullivan. And we got those calendars too. We got calendars too. All right. Okay, that's Miss Sue. That was one of the vendors. 32, they're gone. Janet Driscoll, Ephesus Church. Is that right? Okay. Janet Culpepper, Forest Baptist Church. All right. Chris is here. Chris, you're a pastor. Where is he at? Did he leave?
No, he's hiding.
Oh, Chris Harrison, I just drew your name. Okay, all right. Yeah, Miss Shelba Breedlove. And that blue bag is a battery-operated toothbrush from Jamie Ross. Yeah, that goes to. Yeah. All right. Renee Thompson. Mr. Paul Ray. It's a battery-operated toothbrush.
Since you changed my mind.
Larry Driscoll. All right, how many more we got over there? All right, Miss Linda McKay.
You said that.
Did she say that? Okay. Glasses back on. Jamie Martin from Lake. Diane Burks from Ephesus. All right, how many more we got over there? We got some calendars now?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go through these. All right, Linda Cooksey. Hilda Saxton, Miss Hilda. How many more we got? All right, Mr. Joel Puckett. Miss Polly Patrick. All right, one more. Is it just one more? All right, and four more. Mike Craig. And is it Civil? Is it Civil Gordon? Okay. All right. Is that Gene Sanders from Bethlehem? And is it one more, Jerry? Is it Estelle Cream from Ephesus? I'm probably saying all these names wrong. I'm sorry. All right, and Brenda Howard from First Baptist Lake. One more? Two more. Number 15 is Miss Zan Nutt. And 36. Why I keep taking these things off. All right, is it Rod Sanders? From Homewood, maybe? Okay, is that it? Okay, thank you guys all for coming. Like I said, we've got lots of desserts, lots of good meal. We've got tenderloin, pork tenderloin, and we've got hot potato salad and string beans and rolls, and we've got more than enough for everybody, so I want everybody to come and stay that can and fellowship with us. Thank you all for coming. I look forward to the next time. I don't know, we may have one in the fall. Oh, I forgot Cook Medical. Come on, Cook Medical's got a good one. I'm sorry. And I done put all these numbers back in here, so if you've already won, you just have to tell me. Because I still got all the numbers back in here. All right. Here, I'm going to let you, because this is they have got a lift chair that they're donating, and if you don't want it or don't need it, if you want to think of somebody else that might would. All right, let's see. All right. Miss Dorothy, you won a prize, didn't you? Miss Dorothy Simpson, you've already got something, didn't you? Yeah. I'm sorry. It's probably a bunch because. Number 9. Number 9 is Miss Linda Puckett. There's Miss Linda. All right, Miss Linda, you're getting a lift chair from Cook Medical Clinic. I'm sorry. Upside down. Okay, again, thank you all for coming. Bobo and I'll get together and see. We usually do one in the spring and the fall, so we'll get together and see if we're gonna be able to get one for the fall. But, and if any church would like to host it, you're, welcome to do that. Just get with me and let me know if you'd like to do that. You kind of see what it, you know, the kind of setup is. It doesn't have to be as big or whatever as far as the vendors. I mean, if you don't have the room, we don't have to have a lot of vendors there. It's just a little happy, or they can bring little happies for you guys. So, but anyway, I'm gonna turn it over to Brother Bobby McKay. He is our pastor. And then he will close us out with prayer for our food, and then we'll dismiss to go to the fellowship hall, go out the doors, go to the right, and then go down the hall, and we'll have some people down there kind of directing you on through there. But please stay and join us for our fellowship.
I pray y'all been blessed and had a good time here at New Liberty. Thank y'all for coming, and let's thank Miss Lynn for leading all this. Appreciate all the folks behind the scenes and in front of the scenes that made all this possible again, so just thank y'all for coming. If I could ask you to stand, and I'll close us in a word of prayer and pray blessings upon our food. Father God, we've heard a story, a great story, a reminding story, Father, that, Lord, that you're not done with us. And Father, help us to have the courage to live and to share our story. Our story may be different, but our story is equally important as everyone's. So, Father, give us the boldness and the courage to, as the video and as it's been said, to press on, to endure, to be conquerors, Father, in you. I thank you for this church. I thank you for every church that is represented. May there be points of grace all throughout our community, bringing people to you. And Father, when that happens, we give you the honor and the glory for that. Father, we ask you to bless this food that's been prepared for us. Thank you for those that have sacrificed their times, and the vendors, and those that have cooked and prepared the meals, the volunteers, more high school kids. Father, all these people, just bless them, Father, and protect them in their goings and their comings. And Father, may it nourish our bodies, the meal we're about to take. And Lord, give us safe travel home. It's the name of Jesus I pray. Amen. All are dismissed.